Growing up in a big family, 3 older sisters, 2 younger brothers, I thought was great. It was particularly important because we moved all the time. Every year I was at a different elementary school, so my friend foundation happened to also be my family. By the time I was 11, I was running my first newspaper route. I knew because I was a good student that I should probably go to school, but we had no way to pay for it. Instead, I decided to volunteer for the Air Force. So I swore the oath in January of 1978. And then a month before I was supposed to go to basic training, I had a car accident and was discharged from the Air Force. And so I decided to go out and get a job. Worked in a warehouse, started putting myself through college, ended up going to 5 different institutions, getting my degree. I think one of the main reasons why I was able to move pretty aggressively up the so-called corporate ladder had a lot to do with what I learned in childhood, watching my parents work. I always wanted to be the last to turn the lights off and do as good a job as I could, and I was going to work as hard as anybody around me. I met my wife Susan when I lived in Boston. I was up there for a couple of years. Actually, was already in the process of moving back down to the South when we went out on our first date and fell in love, got married a year later. But she's definitely the rock of our family. Being a grandfather is unbelievable. I mean, being a parent's pretty cool, but having that little grandbaby around is amazing. It kind of, I think, helps you understand why you do this job. When I became Speaker, we actually did a number of extraordinary things. Tax reform, regulatory reform. The thing I'm most proud of are the number of things that we did on a bipartisan basis. I did apply a lot of my experience in business to the political process. It's very much a part of me to attack things with a method. There are always ways to make it leaner, better, faster, cheaper. The great leaders that I tried to copy all had one thing in common. They didn't rush for the credit. They were more focused on the result. My top priorities in the U.S. Senate have and always will be men and women in uniform, their families, and veterans. To me, that is job number one, to protect our nation. We owe it to them to take care of them and their families for having served this nation. Those are key priorities. I'm also on Banking Committee. To me, financial services and banking regs that make sense are very important. I'm on Judiciary Committee, so being a steward of the judiciary, having had the pleasure and the privilege of overseeing 2 Supreme Court nominations was an extraordinary experience. If somebody tunes into C-SPAN, they would get the impression that Republicans and Democrats all hate each other, but it couldn't be further from the truth. No one person, including the president, can get things done without collaboration. I mean, if you take a look at the cooperation on fighting the opioid epidemic, if you take a look at bipartisan cooperation on criminal justice reform, it takes a lot of effort to be consistently partisan in this job. I've moved around, probably missed a state or two. But in 1998, I decided I wanted to move to North Carolina. Could have lived anywhere in the world, actually. Could have been in management deployments or move anywhere in the world, but I loved North Carolina, just fell in love with it. We've got everything here. Being a member of the U.S. Senate representative is something I'm very proud of.